A 16-year-old girl who was kidnapped and brought to the United States illegally to serve as a sex slave for her uncle. So in October of 2021, a woman called the Rogers Police Department to report that she thought that her niece had been brought to the United States illegally and was being SA'd. The 16-year-old girl had been sharing her location with her aunt, and that location was 4800 North 2nd Street in Rogers. The victim told her aunt that she was staying with a man named Melvin who was physically and sexually abusing her, and that he did say that he would release her for a sum of $4,000. So naturally, police went to the address 4800 North 2nd Street and asked to speak to a Melvin. The residents at that home, a man and woman, said that they didn't know anybody named Melvin, and they also didn't know the girl that they were looking for. The residents of that home were named Jose Vasquez and his wife, Giannis. So basically, police were like, that's weird. That's really weird. But they went on. Later, they were called to Walmart where the teenage girl was. At that time, the teenage girl was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I never said that any of that abuse happened. That never happened. I don't know anything. So they sent that girl to DHS custody because she was at Walmart alone, which is a little bit weird because she was 16, but that's just part of what happened. 3 days later, the child abuse hotline received a call about this very girl saying that she and another minor were brought into the United States basically to be sold for sex. The next day, the victim was interviewed and she recounted her entire story. So basically, she was brought into the United States via coyote. So basically, this man that the victim knew as Melvin contacted the girl's father in Mexico and asked the father, hey, does your daughter want to come to the United States? If she does, I will pay for her to come here. I believe that it was Melvin that allegedly paid a coyote for the victim to cross the border illegally. So again, I want to remind you, this girl is 16 years old. At some point after the victim crossed the border, she was picked up by ICE and taken to a detention facility. Melvin tried to get the victim released from the facility to him, but ICE would only release the victim to a parent. So a woman named Rosa was hired to get the victim out of the detention facility. Rosa was able to get the victim released from ICE custody. The victim was able to get on a plane and fly to Northwest Arkansas, where she then was picked up by Rosa, who met Melvin at a restaurant and then gave the girl to Melvin. The victim told police that she went to stay at Melvin's home and that Melvin would rape her, that Melvin would put a pillow over her face and say, give me one night of pleasure as payment for bringing you here. But it happened for several nights. The victim told police that she had been staying with Melvin for about 3 weeks and that on the evening that the police came to the home to ask for Melvin and the girl were actually there, and Melvin held his hand over her mouth so that she couldn't say anything. So, of course, police went back to the home on North 2nd Street and spoke to the occupants a second time. And this time, Jose admitted that actually he did have a brother, and Jose's brother's name was Hector. While Hector wasn't living in the home with Jose and Giannis, Hector was living in a separate home on the same property. Police were able to confirm with the victim that the person that she knew as Melvin was actually named Hector Figueroa Vasquez. As police started to unravel more of this, they were able to speak to Hector. Hector did admit to helping the girl come to the United States, but he said that the girl's father is actually the one that paid the money, that he didn't ever do anything harmful to the girl. He certainly denied, SAing her in any form or fashion. The victim was shown a picture of Hector and confirmed that that was the man that she knew as Melvin. Police then showed Hector's brother, Jose, the photo that the girl knew as Melvin, and Jose did confirm that that was his brother, Hector. Basically, the whole thing was a big mess. Hector told police that the girl's father paid Rosa $2,000 to get the girl out of ICE detention. Rosa said that Hector was the one that paid her $2,000, paid her $1,000 before the girl was out of detention, and the second $1,000 when Rosa and the victim met Hector at the restaurant. Jose said that the girl did not live with Hector on the property, that no one lived with Hector, and that Hector had only been there living in Rogers with him for a month. Police were able to get phone records that showed text messages exchanged between Hector and Jose and between Hector and Rosa. It did prove that what the victim was saying was true. A couple of things should be noted. So police did search the inside of Rosa's home, and inside that home, police found the victim's notice to appear documents, and these documents were supposed to be with the victim at all times and serve as identification for the victim. But Rosa said that she did not give those documents to Hector because Rosa wanted to know where the victim was at all times. And so the victim couldn't go anywhere but right there with them between Rosa and Hector because she didn't have any documents. And the other thing is that the victim did tell police that she told Giannis that she was being abused by Hector. She told Giannis what was going on the day that the police came to look at the home the first time. And Giannis called an Uber and had the girl get in the Uber and go to Walmart in order to escape Hector. So Giannis did try to protect the girl in some form by helping her escape the home in the Uber. Hector Figueroa Vasquez was arrested and charged with kidnapping, forgery, and 3 counts of rape. On September 11th, 2023, Jose Figueroa Vasquez entered a plea deal in Benton County. As a part of this plea deal, the 3 charges of rape were reduced to first-degree SA. Hector pled guilty to those 3 charges. The kidnapping charge was dropped, and the first-degree forgery was dropped to second-degree forgery. Hector Figueroa Vasquez was sentenced to 20 years in prison with an additional 10 years suspended on the SA charges, plus 20 years in prison with an additional 10 years suspended on the forgery charge. And those 2 sentences are supposed to run consecutively, meaning that he was sentenced to 40 years in the Arkansas Department of Corrections.